Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, April 17th, 2025, and today we're going to be taking a look at an update at Donald Trump's approval rating. The Silver Bulletin, Nate Silver's website, is what I've been using to track the approval rating for President Trump in the absence of 538. They show today that Donald Trump's approval rating is down 5 points nationally in a continuous trend that is in the bad direction for Donald Trump. The good direction would be where he was early on in his second administration, but now we're starting to see some real effects of Donald Trump's disapproval nationally and on a more localized level too, across states and congressional districts where we are seeing shifts in response to how voters view the President of the United States. Now, looking at Donald Trump's approval rating, one thing we do have to mention, which is important to note as we navigate the next year and a half before the next midterm elections, which is that Donald Trump's approval rating is still higher today than it was at most points in his first presidency. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. His first administration was arguably one of the worst administrations we have seen in terms of approval in modern political history. He's the only president who has sustained a level of negative approval for such an extended period of time, in that after 2 weeks of his first administration, he never, ever recovered. And that continued until he ended his time in the Oval Office, being down 15 points nationally, a very big low point following the January 6th insurrection. Now, looking at it as we navigate the next second term with less than 100 days to the name of Donald Trump this time around, his approval rating is already down 5 points, and it doesn't look like it's on the up and up at all. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that voters aren't necessarily viewing Donald Trump's decision-making around the economy and immigration and foreign policy in a way that they would like to be viewing it, which is positively. Donald Trump, who had long withstood a very strong level of approval on his economic issues throughout the campaign, consistently outpacing that of Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris on a point-to-point basis of, do voters trust this candidate more on the economy, Donald Trump would always win those polls. So when he started off, the expectation was that his economic vision would be better for the nation than Kamala Harris's, at least from the voters that voted for him. That's why he started out with an approval rating that was +6, +12, +4 nationally on the issue of the economy. But then came in the tariffs. Donald Trump, who promised he would solve the economy on day one, would prevent taxes on tips on day one, would do all these different economic decisions very early on. And the tariffs that he promised, seem to be the only thing that he's deciding to implement through day 1 through 100. And with it, it's unleashing a level of discontent for this administration. Take a look at some of these early polling numbers on Donald Trump's handling of the economy. One of the early signs back in 2021 that led to Joe Biden losing his 6 to 7 month honeymoon. The Real Clear Politics average on here far outpaces the national average on Trump's approval, which is that it shows that on the economy, Donald Trump is disapproved of in the negative double digits. Now, that's not to say that Donald Trump is largely disapproved of in every aspect, but it is to say that on the issue of the economy, the voters don't love it. But on immigration, they do. On inflation, not so much. And on handling of the war in Gaza, not so much either. But it is specific to immigration and the economy where we are really seeing the direct impact of Donald Trump, which is why his approval rating isn't as low as his economic approval rating. But these things tend to happen. Back in 2021, Joe Biden was disapproved of in foreign policy right after the Afghanistan withdrawal. That was disapproved of 15, 20 points. But it still only had him down 1, 2, 3 points nationally. Why? Because voters liked his response to COVID-19. His handling of COVID-19 and the pandemic was largely approved of by double digits. So why do I tell you this? Why do we discuss Trump's approval rating so in depth? Well, because it is an indicator of where the nation stands on their president. In about a year and a half, our midterm elections will come forth, which equally are opportunities to voters to express their affirmation or discontent with the incumbent administration. And if history tells us anything, it's that Democrats are on track for a very strong midterm election. And to put things into perspective about what might be seen as a success for Democrats in 2026, we have to start with the House of Representatives. The simple, most easiest way for Democrats to display their disaffection, and Republicans and independents too, who might be upset with the administration, to display their pushback against Donald Trump's second administration. The 2026 House elections are some of the closest we will see of this century. Why? Because it already starts out in an extremely close position. The Republican majority right now is the narrowest majority of the century so far. The narrowest majority. Republicans hold the advantage of just 3 more seats than 218. 3 more seats. Which means if Democrats flip 3 seats, I know it sounds weird, right? But if Democrats win 3 seats, assuming there's no vacancies, they win the House majority. And when you take a look at the change from year to year in the House of Representatives, you can see that far more than 3 seats change. Let's start off in the beginning of the century. The year 2000, Republicans win 221 to 213. Now, this is a very cursed map, might I add. Looks nothing like what the map looks like today. But humor me for a moment. 221 to 213. Again, Democrats only need 3 seats. 2 years later, because President Bush has a high approval rating, and voters largely are not discontent with his administration. This was a year after 9/11, very high levels of approval. Republicans gained more than 3 seats. The point here is to look at the gains and differences in the map. A lot changes in 2 years. But then take a look at 2004. The map doesn't change too much, but the number that it changes by is the exact number that Democrats would need to win back the House majority. But then comes 2006. Democrats have a phenomenal year. They flip the Senate, and of course, they flip the House. And Democrats see a change of nearly 40 seats or 30 seats in the House of Representatives. 2008, Democrats expand where they are, leaning into the win that President Obama had, and using that to drive themselves to victory in states ranging from North Dakota to Iowa to Maine to Florida. I mean, we are talking about really substantive advantages for the Democratic Party. But take a look at where Donald Trump is today. Disapproved by roughly 5 points. Well, let's take a look at Donald Trump's approval rating on Real Clear Politics, because we can also look at Obama's too. And the reason I bring up Obama's is not because I want to spend time focusing on the past. It's because I want to take a look at what his approval rating was around the time of his midterm election in 2010. Which, if you take a look, you can see that it was at this point when Republicans won back House control. Republicans flipped 63 seats in the House. And yet, the disapproval rating for Obama was disapprove plus 4.8. Donald Trump is disapprove of 5.0. And looking at this map, brace yourself if you're a Democrat. You know, you're probably elated if you are a Republican looking at this map swing. 2008, 2010, a complete 180. A complete 180. 63 seats. Democrats lost to Republicans. 63 seats. So when we remember what Democrats need in 2026, they will have it. In the Senate, it will be a trickier topic, but they could win North Carolina, Maine, hold on to Georgia, hold on to Michigan, and they're that much closer to a majority. The approval rating of Donald Trump being so negative amongst the economic issues of inflation, and even foreign policy. It is immigration that is his sole saving grace right now. But it's not going to be for long. Voters are going to approve of the way he's handling immigration the longer that immigration seems to become less of an issue on the national level. But what we're seeing with wrong deportations from this administration, what we're seeing with crackdowns and arrests of United States citizens who just so happen to look a certain type of way, or act a certain type of way, or live in a certain area, the voters right now are keeping Donald Trump's approval rating at a very, very bad point, but much better than what it would be if we were basing it strictly on the economy, which was Trump's selling point in 2024. It's very interesting. if you ask me. It is very interesting to look at it from the perspective of Democrats and Republicans to see where Trump was in the first term and what issues held him up then and where he is now and what issues are arguably dragging him down. And I think we will learn a lot about what voters will be voting on in the next election and what voters care about and what brings people to the polls. Keep an eye out on this approval rating as it continues to fall and fall and fall. We forget that just 2 months ago, Trump was approved of nationwide, and that at the beginning of the administration, less than 90 days ago, Trump had a double-digit net approval. You take a look at the net approval, plus 12, down, 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 down. Skateboarder's dream, right? The way it's just constantly going downhill. You can see the net approval down, down, and down. And it's only going to continue. So watch it. Keep your eyes out. Look at the approval rating. See how it intersects and interacts with voters across the nation as more special elections arise, as more regular elections arise, as the midterms arise, as the Virginia and New Jersey gubernatorial races arise. Because it'll tell us a bigger story. And it will show that this level of discontent for Donald Trump isn't just going to be measured in approval polls or protests or public outrage. It will be measured in substantive losses for the GOP, just as they incurred on the first term for Donald Trump. And we can see it now. We can predict it with these numbers. And it will be a very fascinating race to watch over the next 2 years. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already. And check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch. And then a playlist for my 2024 election analysis, 26 House election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you all tomorrow.